Hello there, friends and fellow sufferers. Welcome to episode 37 of Never Mind the Bullens. My name's Mike Peters. This is your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. Recording this immediately after the final whistle of the defeat at Goodison to Newcastle, and I hate to sort of almost prove myself right. Honestly, I take no pleasure in this. I did say, on after the episode after the Leicester game, episode 36, about what happened last year, being a cautionary tale at home to Newcastle 12 months ago, where we blew a 2-goal lead and we threw away what should have been a comfortable 3 points and ended up getting a point. And it was a marker for where we were, obviously in the aftermath of obviously Carlo coming in and results picking up and so on and so forth. And it just showed, it was a little check for us about where we were at. And I think today, it's Groundhog Day really, which is quite appropriate given that Groundhog Day is actually this coming week. It's a fantastic sense of deja vu. It shows where we are at and where our flaws are at. No question that Newcastle deserved to win the game. They were the better team. But, prior to the game, I looked at the lineup. I thought, this is really positive. We're really going to go at them. They're very, very vulnerable. Haven't won since the middle of December. Barely scored any goals. So it was there for us. The game was absolutely there for us. And I was really impressed with the positive lineup. I thought, this is great. And we started the game quite brightly as well. James was flipping their press, by switching it round. He was allowed to float around and just dictate play because they came and they went at us. And then as soon as we flipped the press, they were really on the back foot. And I thought, hang on, they don't know quite where to put themselves here. If they defended and did a low block, then we would just bombard them. It would have been like the Alamo in terms of crosses from Luca Dean and Seamus Coleman, James and Alex Iwobi. And Gylfi Sigurdsson, quality balls into the box, and none of that happened. Absolutely none of that happened. So many people had off days today. It was mind-boggling, really. Yerry Mina seemed to be more interested, although he defended quite well, seemed to be more interested in the scrap with Callum Wilson, sort of resuming hostilities after the game at St James's Park back in October. Gylfi Sigurdsson was way off it. Alex Iwobi had his quietest game in several weeks, and there just seemed to be a lack of fight in midfield. Abdoulaye Doucouré was kind of overrun. It just showed today again how much we missed Alan in midfield there, and to a degree Tom Davies as well. Really, just somebody that's going to get in amongst it and try and he's going to get fouls away, create tackles, but make tackles and just cause problems and cover the defence a little bit, because we went for it, and that's the risk you take in trying to go for it and putting five attacking players in your midfield and your forward line. That's the risk you take, that you're going to be vulnerable. And we were starting to give chances away to Newcastle. Obviously, Callum Wilson hit the bar. He seems to have a bit of the Indian sign over us. Sort of almost becoming a latter-day Les Ferdinand, because he used to score against us whenever he played us, whether it was Queen's Park Rangers or for Newcastle or for Tottenham. He'd always score, even if he hadn't scored for ages. He'd score against us somehow. But nonetheless, Callum Wilson, guaranteed a goal against us. Is that 4 now? I think he's got against us this season. But there was just a lack of fight, a lack of energy, a lack of commitment in midfield. There were a number of players that obviously James was getting targeted quite obviously through the game there, and not getting a number of tackles on his ankle. And I was not terribly impressed with Stuart Atwell's performance. I thought he was a bit fussy. He should have nipped. It was clear that he was being targeted. He should have nipped it in the bud. But then we didn't exploit the opportunities that we had. Jamal Lascelles, all right, went off, but he got booked very early on for a cynical hack on Richarlison, and I felt it was going to be Richarlison's day today because he had a lot of space to run into. But in the final third, our decision making was awful. It was so poor. Luca Dean, I think today might have had his worst game in an Everton shirt. He was so off the pace. His crossing sort of decision making in terms of whether to put the ball in with pace, to float the ball, was every time it was wrong. In the last few minutes, it was summed up when he came and the ball came out to him, with about 15 players in front of him. And, he's trying to replicate that goal he scored against Man United a couple of years ago, where he fizzed it straight back past Averdale into the bottom corner in the Gladys Street end. And he tried to do that today, but it was completely the wrong decision, or just players converging on him from all sides. And he stuck it in. He did stick it in Rowe's head. And he just looked really despondent today. Seamus Coleman, I don't think got forward at any point in the game. Just couldn't attack at all. It was just Really, really disappointing. And then, you look into the bench and think, right, who's going to come on and change this? And again, no Jane Tosin on the bench. Ellis Sims has obviously been loaned out. And it's like, right, well, hang on, where's the striking options there to try and help Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I actually thought did quite well with very little today. Again, there were times in the first half I thought he's very isolated, which he shouldn't be. Created a couple of lovely moments. That little impudent backheel to James in the first half was great, and shows that the confidence is flowing through his veins, even though he's been in a little bit of a dry spell, goals wise. But you look into it and you're thinking, well, who's going to change the game? And really, you've put everybody on the pitch that your game changes. Anthony Gordon can come on, but you can't expect him. I want him to be given minutes. I've said that repeatedly on this podcast, but you can't expect him to come and dig you out of a hole. Bernard wasn't on the bench. I think we had a space on the bench that wasn't used today. Now, obviously, there's strong talk about Bernard going, which seems to be, I think, partly a business decision, really, because I think as a squad player, I think he is useful to us, but, it's cost-benefit, isn't it? And what he's costing us each week in wages, he's one of our biggest earners. He's not producing that level of performance, on the pitch. He's kind of, in a manner of speaking, he's our Mesut Ozil. But obviously costing us far, far less than Mesut Ozil cost Arsenal. But nonetheless, I just think when you've got the players available, spaces available, I think it's interesting a peculiar decision not to have used them. So, you can't change things. If you need to get a goal, you need to eke a goal out. Who's going to come off the bench there and get a goal? We know there's goals in that team, but still, you want somebody that's going to come on and offer you something different, or just fresh legs, or what have you. And we did look a bit tired at times, and I don't know whether that has to do with the fact that, obviously Newcastle had an extra day's rest. I'm not going to use that as an excuse at all, because Everton, we didn't deserve anything out of the game. We were really, really poor. But like I said, you wonder now. I mean, we don't hit the panic button because it's just a very disappointing day, and we said repeatedly on this podcast, or I've said repeatedly on this podcast, that it's going to be that kind of a season. We are going to have days that are going to frustrate the hell out of us, because we know that we're capable of much better than that, because we show it in other games, and today was one of those performances. It was a kind of a peak Everton performance, really. A team coming to you, you've not, just got to take a point off a fellow European chasing team on Wednesday. Road, I look a little bit and you're thinking, great, home game, team really struggling, horribly out of form, can't score goals, happy days. So I really want to blame my mate Les for this, because he texted me before the game and said, easy win today, mate, 3-1. I'm like, no, don't say that, kiss of death. And hey, it proved to be. But yeah, it is a sort of a marker of where we are at. I've seen a number of tweets after the game sort of saying about, Champions League, we're having a laugh. Well, that was always going to be a stretch for us. There's no question about that. We were in the mix, a week, 10 days ago. But still, we've got a chance to put it right quite quickly. We've got Leeds on Wednesday. Obviously, we've got Man United next weekend. That's going to be a difficult game, but of course they are beatable, as they proved the other night against Sheffield United. And then, of course, we've got Tottenham in the Cup. So, and Fulham following that. So there is still time to, arrest this and get ourselves back on track. It's a really disappointing performance, a really disappointing result. It shows that, where our weaknesses are in the squad, whether there's time now to rectify that, really, before, obviously, the transfer window closing in a matter of hours, as I record this, really. I don't know. But can we afford to do it? Can we not afford to do it? Is this a case of, right, this season is kind of a season of where we sort of sow the seeds of what we can achieve next season with more, a better, changing the squad a bit more, bringing in some extra bodies that Carlo needs, developing some younger players as well. Is that where we're at this season? It's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, that we end up finishing top half, maybe get a run in the FA Cup. We get there all the way. We've done all right in the League Cup, got to the quarterfinals. Is that what this season is? I don't know. They're much bigger questions than can be covered in the 10 minutes of this podcast. But very disappointing day. But at least we have the opportunity to put it right quite quickly against Leeds on Wednesday. Until then, feel free to vent your spleen at me in whatever form you want on Twitter at NMTBpod. At DJ Mike Peters is my personal Twitter if you want to follow me on that. Or nmtbpod@gmail.com. And until Wednesday after the Leeds game, come on you Blues.